Thank you to Cozy for sponsoring the Goal Digger podcast. Transform your living space today with Cozy. Visit cozy.com, spelled COZEY.com, the home of possibilities made easy.
Writing a book is kind of like learning how to ride a bike.
Yep.
Once you do it, you can do it again and again and again. And so you wrote the book that was true to your heart, and that was the starting point. And now if you ever chose to do the next one, it would be 10 times easier.
I'm Jenna Kutcher, your host of the Goal Digger podcast. I escaped the corporate world at the age of 23 with nothing more than a $300 camera from Craigslist and a dream. Now I'm running a 7-figure online business that feels even better than it looks, all from my house in small town Minnesota with my family. Here, we value time as our currency. We mix the woo and the work, and we are in the pursuit of building businesses that give us the freedom to live lives that we love. I've always loved turning big goals into reality, and I'm here to help you do the same. This isn't just a peek behind the curtain. Come along with me and my guests as we tear the whole curtain down. Every week, we tackle practical, no-fluff marketing strategies and host honest discussions on what works and what doesn't. Join me and my expert guests for actionable insights to help you grow your dream business with confidence. Pull up a seat and get ready to be challenged, inspired, and empowered. This is the Goal Digger podcast. Have you ever thought about writing a book? Not just to check it off your bucket list, but to actually grow your business on autopilot? Imagine this. One single book that acts like a 24/7 lead magnet, builds trust with your audience before they've even met you, and quietly funnels dream clients and customers into your world, all while you're off doing your thing and living your life. Yeah, that's the magic of what we're talking about today. How a book isn't just a passion project, it can be your smartest business asset. My guest today is no stranger to the show. Chandler Bolt is back for the third time because you guys love him and the results speak for themselves. He's the CEO of selfpublishing.com, a 7 times best-selling author, a Forbes 30 under 30 honoree, and a straight-up wizard when it comes to helping people write and launch books that actually make an impact and an income. So if you're brand new to the idea of writing a book and want to start from square one, be sure to check out our past episodes together. They're linked in the show notes because this conversation, we're diving off the deep end and going next level. We're talking about the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make when it comes to book strategies, how to use your book to grow your email list without spending all day on Instagram. Heck, Chandler doesn't even have an Instagram, and why publishing could be the most leveraged move you make this year. I also totally didn't expect this to happen, but I break down and cry in this episode about something I found out about my book. It was a surprising moment for all of us on the show and one of the most meaningful moments that this podcast might ever see. If this conversation gets your wheels turning, trust me, it will. Chandler is hosting a free class called How to Launch Your Book to Bestseller Status in 3 Easy Steps. Even if you haven't written a single word yet or you don't have your book idea down pat, you can save your seat at selfpublishing.com/Jenna. That's selfpublishing.com/Jenna. We're also going to link that for you in the show notes. So if you are someone who's got a message to share and a business to grow, grab your favorite pen because yes, this one's a note taker, and get ready to map out your book funnel blueprint. Chandler Bolt, welcome on back to the Goal Digger podcast. Okay, Chandler, what is the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make when they publish a book, and how does it keep their book from actually generating results like leads and revenue?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake they make before publishing is they don't get around to writing it and they don't actually do it. But then the biggest mistake that they make around publishing is they don't align it closely to their business. So then it doesn't move the needle in their business. And I'll give a quick example in a story, kind of poke fun at one of my friends, Dan Martell, because he's a great example at one of these two things. And so for years, I'm like, man, you got to get this book done. You got to do this book. I'm just kind of giving him a hard time. And he put it off, and then he did it. But he did the second thing really, really, really well, which is aligning the book with his business. The business has exploded. His socials exploded, all that stuff since then. But then he came back and said, hey, I wish I would have done it years earlier. So biggest mistake, they don't do it early enough, but then they don't align it to their business, which I think is something he's done an incredible job of.
Oh my gosh. And his book is so good. Like I have talked about Buy Back Your Time. If you haven't read it, Dan Martell, Dan, we love you. But that is so true. It's like you can wait on it or sit on the idea too long, or you can miss like actually connecting it to something real that will change your business. And I also feel like in his instance as well, is like I bought his book and then I bought a copy of it for almost every member of my team, right? So like it was not just an intro of me to him, it was also like me becoming an evangelist for that book. Now, let's start simple. Let's connect the dots of like, how can a book actually bring people into somebody's business? Because we gave a great example, but like, what does that actually look like?
Yeah, great question. I think I like to say a book is for me, it's a $7 million business card. And it's a 3-pound business card, but it's also a $7 million business card because this book right here has brought in probably about $7 million in the last year or so. But the way that we do that is I think about 3 buckets. It's leads, sales, referrals, right? So that's what I encourage people to think about with integrating a book into your business is how do I use this to get more leads, to get more sales, to get more referrals? Now, leads, these are the people who hear about my business because of the book, right? Dan Martell is an example. Oh, wait, hold up. There's SaaS Academy. There's the Martell method. There's all this stuff. I didn't know about that. I'm speaking for people reading that book, right? Until I read the book. Another example, Alex Hormozi. Hey, I read $100 million leads, and then I found out about acquisition.com. Russell Brunson, I've read Traffic Secrets, and then I found out about ClickFunnels, right? It's a very proven model of get more leads, top of funnel. But then there's more sales. That's turning more of the people who already know about you into paying customers. Yep. And so it's kind of like whether it's for you going from social to book, saying, how are you really? And let's continue the conversation here. And then, okay, wow, this is interesting. Now I'm creating a deeper relationship with Jenna. Oh, hold up. There's these other programs and stuff that she's got. Let's work together. So it's just integrating it into your sales funnel. That's how we do it. And then the referrals, it's turning active customers into active referrers, but in a way that is high value and builds goodwill. And, not me just saying, hey, send business to selfpublishing.com, but hey, if you know anyone who's writing a book, just send them. In fact, I'll send them a copy of the book for you and tell them you sent it, right? So it's adding value first and enabling people to refer you business. So I could talk on this for a really long time, but those are kind of the 3 pillars that I think about.
I love that. And I feel like at the end of the day, those 3 buckets are how we get results as business owners, right? Like if you're not looking at leads, sales, and referrals in your business, no matter what your offer is, you're likely not getting a lot of results or you're not tying your actual efforts to real results. So I think those 3 buckets are prominent in every type of business that could be listening. So one thing I want to talk about, you and I have talked a lot of different things about books, but one thing we've never really gone deep on is this idea of a book funnel. Okay, what the heck is a book funnel? Walk us through, like we're 3rd graders. What's a book funnel?
Book funnels are one of my favorite funnels, and book funnels have been dead for about a decade now. Books have been dead for I don't know how long, but they're not dead. They are, better than ever. But a book funnel there's 2 things. There's one is the common free plus shipping funnel. It's been historically one of our best converting funnels. It goes really well, which is essentially, hey, I'm going to give you a book for free, a physical copy of the book for free, in exchange for you covering shipping and handling. And it's a very simple process. There's, you've got a landing page. They cover the shipping and handling. You've got maybe order form bumps or additional products they can add to cart. And the goal is to become a self-liquidating offer. So to essentially break even on the cost of the book for, the average order value of what they pay when they go through that process, right? So that is kind of your tried and true funnel. And the way I look at it is, in doing that, you create a list of buyers instead of just a list of subscribers because you now have all those folks' credit card on file. So a free plus shipping funnel, tried and true funnel. Again, I love the quote that we get tired of our marketing before the market does. And that's a prime example where people think, oh, free plus shipping funnel. Are you kidding me? How long has that been going on? Brendan Burchard back in the day, Tony Robbins back in the day. Like, okay, surely that doesn't work anymore, does it? Yeah, it does. But so that's one. But then I also like to go a step further than that and say, hey, how can I give away my book for free in other formats, either at the top of the funnel or integrated into the funnel? And so integrated into the funnel, it's pretty simple. Maybe you have a webinar funnel or you have something where there's a sales process, someone going from traffic to lead to webinar to maybe booking an appointment to purchasing. Well, how can I use the book anywhere and everywhere in that process to just give me a lift on show up rate? Or, hey, if you register, show up and stay to the end, I'll give you a free copy of my book. Yeah. Okay, well, now all of a sudden, our show up rate's up, our close rate's up, our everything's up. But then I also like to give away all different versions of the book for free. So audiobook, PDF, all that stuff. It's a little known thing that actually in the very beginning of my book, I do two things. There's the audiobook for free, and then there's a video summary. And we find that just this works like crazy because you're adding value immediately and you're bringing them into your ecosystem. Like, it has inherent value. I would pay $20 for an audiobook. Yep. You're giving it to me for free. Wow, this is great. But then it's also it's a way to continue the relationship. And most importantly, take people from reader to subscriber. So those are kind of the different variations of book funnels that we use in the business.
Okay, this is wild. So one thing that keeps like flashing red light in my head is you have to self-publish if you want to do cool things like this, in my opinion. This is my opinion. We've talked about this before on other episodes, which we'll link in the show notes, but I went the traditional publishing route for my book. And so I was working with HarperCollins. There's all these rules. There's all these processes. They are ancient. They're wonderful, but they are very set in old ways that don't necessarily convert. What I love about what you're talking about is when you self-publish a book, you get to call the shots. You get to make the rules. And so you can say, hey, I want to do it this way, or I'm going to test it this way, or I can try it in this place. And that is just not possible in the traditional publishing world. And so I want to call that out because I think that it allows you to be wildly creative, and it also allows you to experiment without having to answer to people that have different goals than you have as a business owner. One of the things that was so interesting for me in the process, and I loved writing the book. I loved I loved everything about the book. I had such a wonderful experience. It was like so life-giving, and it's usually the opposite of that for certain people. And I loved it, but there wasn't a lot of room for creativity when it came to actually selling the book and then leveraging it inside of my business. It almost is this standalone entity that exists. And I was smart and savvy enough to have interesting call to actions throughout my book to get people into the ecosystem, but it kind of starts and stops there. And so it's like, point of sale is not necessarily in my control. The way that it's distributed is not necessarily in my control. And I'm like, dang, you can be so creative when you self-publish. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Oh, well, you're 100% right. Even just the audiobook thing that I mentioned, if you don't negotiate out and carve out the audiobook rights, they won't allow you to do that. Sometimes they're a little bit particular about what calls to action you can do. Can you have opt-ins in the book? Can all that? So and even something as simple as, oh man, I had a friend, and this happens all the time with my friends who traditionally publish. They're like, hey, what can I do to sell more books? And I'll give them the rundown. And one of the things I'll say, hey, let's start running some Amazon ads. The best way to have evergreen sales is to have on-platform ads directly to your book. And I'm like, okay, so dive into your account. He's like, oh, well, I can't.
I don't know.
My publisher has my account.
Yes.
And that's exactly right. So the on-platform in-platform stuff on Amazon specifically, which, there's a stat that says that, about 70% of books sold are sold on Amazon and other online retailers. Well, wouldn't it be helpful to be able to actually press some buttons in that experience? Well, that's what you can do when you're self-published that you can't do when you're traditionally published. Yeah. So all of those things just give you the freedom to do it how you want. And even free plus shipping funnels, right? Just something like that. If you've got so this is one thing that you can do if you choose to go the traditionally published route. It's a throwaway negotiation line item, but just negotiate the price on your author copies.
Yeah.
And your ability to sell them through a free plus shipping funnel, because the difference between you having to pay $10 or $13 versus the $3 to $5 is the difference in the math working or not, or you even being able to do a free plus shipping funnel. So I don't want to bore people with all the, maybe publishing jargon, but that's just all the things that I see. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if you just had these different things, you could sell a lot more books, but more importantly, move the needle more in your business from the book.
Yeah. So I want to know, you helped so many different authors get their books out into the world. And so let's say somebody listening to this, they already have a business, or maybe they have a course or coaching program or something along those lines. How can they reverse engineer a book that then plugs right into their offer ecosystem? Like, how would you think about a book? So if somebody's listening, they've got a business, they're like, this is fascinating. I didn't even think of this. What is the process to figure out how does this plug into what they're already doing?
Yeah. So I think if you've got a course already, you've written a book, you just didn't know it yet. And the book is your course. You already thought through the structure, the things that you were going to say, all that. Now, sure, the book is maybe more strategies than tactics, because the tactics will change and be outdated and whatever else. And the book is the 30,000 foot view. The course is the in the trenches implementation, but you've really already written the book. You just didn't know it yet. And I would say the same with a coaching program or with a business is ask yourself, what are the broken record conversations that you keep having over and over and over and over again in your business? And what if you just cover that in the book? And so for me, again, I like to teach what we do because it's what's working. And I hate when people teach a theory and stuff that they're not actually doing. Yeah. And so I look at it and I say, hey, all right, all of my stuff, some of my best stuff is codified in my book. Now I give that book to every prospect and every customer. By the time they get on the phone with my team, they sign up to work with us. They're my sales team's favorite conversations because it's not, what do you do or how does it work or whatever. It's, how do I work with you guys? And so it's just a totally different conversation. But then it helps with the onboarding. So then it saves my team time in the onboarding. It helps with my employees onboarding where someone joins the company. I say, hey, read this book first. And so now we're all speaking the same language. So it just gives leverage in your business. And so that's how I think about plugging it into what you're already doing. And I think a lot of times people think of it as a side quest. It's like, oh man, I'm going to do this book. It's going to be this huge distraction for my business. And if you do it correctly, it's actually not, it's the opposite. You come back into your business and you say, leverage, 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 leverage. I now don't have to do these 15 bajillion things because the book brings leverage to that.
Yeah. I love finding pieces that feel timeless and high quality, but I am also all about staying intentional with how I spend. So I am genuinely excited to share that this episode is sponsored by The Real Real. That is the best place to shop authenticated luxury, from shoes to watches to designer bags and dresses. Now, I have been slowly curating those timeless pieces that I know I will wear for years, and The Real Real has become my go-to. I actually just found a gorgeous Jenny Kane sweater that I had been eyeing forever at a price that didn't make me wince. They drop 10,000 new items every single day at 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every single piece is authenticated in person by experts, so you know you're getting the real deal. And since it's resale, you're giving beautiful pieces a second life, which is so much better for your closet and for the planet. In fact, The Real Real has found new homes for over 37 million authenticated luxury pieces. So instead of producing more stuff, they're making what already exists new. The Real Real is the world's largest and most trusted resource for authenticated luxury resale. With thousands of new arrivals daily, no one does resale like The Real Real. And now you can get $25 off your first purchase when you go to therealreal.com/golddigger. That's therealreal.com/golddigger to get $25 off. Start shopping now at therealreal.com/golddigger. This episode of the Gold Digger Podcast is brought to you by Mercury, modern business banking designed for entrepreneurs who want less stress behind the scenes. You know that moment when your kids are independently playing, or better yet, napping, and your laptop's open and you've got exactly 1 hour to be the CEO and the CFO? Well, Mercury gets how real that window is. It's a streamlined platform made for businesses just like yours, where every minute and every dollar counts. With Mercury, you get powerful business banking with no hidden fees and instant access to virtual cards with 1.5% cash back. You can receive funds, pay vendors, send invoices, and manage loans from one central dashboard. Whether you need to pay contractors, send international payments in US dollars, or access founder-friendly capital, Mercury brings all the ways you use money into a single product. That's right, no more juggling multiple platforms. Over 200,000 startups and small businesses already trust Mercury to help them operate at their highest level. Mercury is a technology company, not a bank. Check the show notes for details. Deposit $5,000 or spend $5,000 using your Mercury credit card within your first 90 days to earn $250, or do both for $500 in total rewards at mercury.com/goal. That's mercury.com/goal. I love that. And I feel like one of the smartest ways, like if I were to ever do a book that's more business based or like strategy based, I would answer all the questions that I'm sick of answering inside of the book, right? Like here it is packaged. And I think a lot of people, they feel like a broken record if you're answering the same questions over and over and over again. So to have a resource that isn't just digital, but it's like a tangible resource that you can send people to, not only answers their questions, but it does it in a thoughtful way. Because how many times have we been asked something that we've been asked a million times? We're so sick of the answer ourselves that we barely answer it, or we leave out the good bits, or it's not even really exciting to listen to. I was just talking to some friends who wrote a book together, and we were saying, we're like, people's best work is in their books, because there is something so different from this digital era that we're in, where things live and die on the vine thanks to algorithms, or you can go in and edit it out. Having something that is tangible, that is real, that you can hold in your hands, that you know could be printed a year from now or 10 years from now, changes the way that creators approach it. And I was telling them, I'm like, if somebody wants your best work, I would send them to the book. And every single time, I just feel like the way that people enter into the book space is different. But it also is thoughtful, where you can answer something thoughtfully once. You can include all the details in the bits that you might leave out as your eyes are rolling in the back of your head. Like, I can't believe I have to answer this thing one more time. And the other thing that I love that you said, Chandler, is it is a beautiful separator in qualification. So a lot of people say they want the results that you teach, or they want the transformation that you've had, but they're not necessarily willing to get the skin in the game, whether it's through financial investment in buying the actual book, or it's in spending their time learning the process or hearing the story. And so if you feel like you constantly are getting in leads that aren't qualified, or they're not actually sure that they want what you have, or they're not willing to do the work, if you keep hitting your head up against the wall of like, why are these people saying they want this thing, but they're literally not taking any steps? I feel like a book is the most beautiful prerequisite you could invite into your ecosystem to qualify people and to answer all the stuff you're sick of answering, so that you can actually get to the things that you love. And so I agree. It's kind of one of those things that you could create once and leverage in so many different ways, whether it's exposure to new audiences or qualifying your current audience. And I feel like people are missing this about books.
I completely agree. And it's just enough of a hurdle that they have to take a step, which is the pre-qualification, like you mentioned, but it's just low enough of a hurdle that it's an added value, and you don't feel bad asking them to do it. Like, I don't feel bad saying, hey, just get my book. And in a lot of cases, I'll literally just give it to them and say, hey, just read this and then come back with questions. Or when my sales team, when someone's not ready to work with us, it's actually a very beautiful thing, because what they'll do is they'll say, hey, it doesn't sound like you're ready to work with us, but I'm going to send you this bundle of resources. One is a free copy of this book. And so then all of the people who we disqualified from working with us thank us.
They're like,
thank you so much. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. And so they feel great. And then the people who work with us is helpful for them as well. And it just, to your point, it saves you a ton of time. But then I want to have a hurdle for them, but I also want to make it as easy as possible for them to actually consume the book. Yeah. So that's why I will give them the audiobook, or I will give them the PDF or the physical copy or whatever, so that, I want them to take the step, but it's as easy as possible, so that preferably they get done with that audiobook. We just had a 7-hour conversation. Yep. Now they're ready to go.
Yeah, I love this. Okay, so you basically, you're going to laugh when I say this, but you're like a book doula. Like you are like helping birth books out into the world. Like what a beautiful job you
I've been
have.
called a lot worse.
I know, no, but I'm like, when I think of what you do, it's like ushering in. Like I often joke that like I had twins because I had my daughter Quinn and my book were coming out very similar timelines and it felt like they were twins, right? Like the twin is the book. And so I felt like I was birthing a baby and a book at the same time. And so you have helped thousands of authors, even some of my audience. You've helped them since your last episode get their books out into the world. So what are the key ingredients of a book that converts readers into an actual result, whether that's an email subscriber or a paying client? Like, what are some of those ingredients that a book must have?
Yeah, well, ingredient number one is you got to get pregnant. No, I'm kidding. No, you wouldn't believe how many people we've helped to publish books that were pregnant. And that it's the ultimate deadline. It's like, I got to get this book done before the baby comes. But yeah, we've probably helped, I don't even know how many dozens of folks from your audience since the last episode and since our last training. I think the core ingredients, I mean, number one, does it solve a problem for people and a problem that people care about? And I like to think about kind of the 4 Ps of a best-selling book. It's person, pain, promise, price. Ooh. So person, write it to one person that you know, right? And a lot of people struggle with voice, or they struggle with how to say something or how to find their voice. Well, think about the one person that you're writing this book for, and not an avatar, someone you know. So let's say that was Jenna for me. Well, then when I'm writing that book, all the questions are answered. Should I be serious or should I be funny? Well, how would I tell this as if I'm writing a letter to Jenna? Okay, well, should I use this story or should I not? How would I say it to Jenna, right? So you start to answer all those questions. Then number 2, the pain. So what's the pain that they have that they know that they have? That's really important. Not the pain that I know that they have. The pain that they're problem aware, right? As they would say. And so an example I like to use is, let's say I've got back pain.
Yeah.
And I go to a chiropractor and he points out that I have bad posture. I'm sitting on my wallet. You got bad posture, all this stuff. Well, he could write a book about posture. I would never read that book because that's a vitamin, not a pain pill, right? But if he wrote a book about back pain, and that same thing could still be in there, right? I call this chocolate covered broccoli. It's the chocolate is what I'm there for, and then the broccoli is on the inside. But if I just held out a piece of broccoli, you'd say, "Ooh, no, thanks," or at least most people would. And so if he writes a book on back pain, and then in there is the posture stuff that I need, well, now he's spoken to the pain that I have. And then the promise, what's the promise or the outcome that you're promising with your book, right? That's a compelling outcome. And then the price is pretty straightforward, depending on the format, that sort of thing. But if you do that well, then those 4 Ps line up with the 4 Ps of your business or of your offer. And if those are aligned, well, then now it actually makes the cash register ring in your business.
I love this. One thing that I love about what you were saying is like, even just nailing down the person, like this is going to help you in every area of your business, not just in writing a book. And I feel like a book makes you narrow your focus in a beautiful way of like, what do I actually want to say? Like, what do I truly want to say? What truly matters? Who am I speaking to? It crystallizes a lot of the nuance that exists in entrepreneurship that entrepreneurs are too busy ignoring, that can really help add that clarity and that definition that will take you to the next level. Like, I just think if you nail those things down in a book or outside of it, those are the pieces of the puzzle that I think a lot of people are missing while they're on the hamster wheel of all the other things a business takes. So how early in the process, let's say somebody is listening to this and they're like, gosh, I never really thought about writing a book, but now this is interesting. Like, how early in the process should someone be thinking about like, okay, what is the business connection, or what is the strategy here? Or what would the funnel be? Like, is this something that's like an afterthought? Is it before you start writing? If somebody's listening and they've started a manuscript, is it too late? Like, walk us through that.
Yeah, great question. It's never too late, but I would also say it's never too early.
Yeah.
And so we'll tell people, I'm sure, about the training we're hosting together. I would show up to that. We'll ideate it. We'll come up with ideas. All that stuff. But I would think about, if you can, before you start, begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey, let's think about the 4 Ps. Let's align it to the business. Let's think about what are the broken record conversations that you have in your business? What are the things that you just keep repeating over and over again? Or the things that you're tired of talking about? And if you start there, these are the objections that people have before doing business with me, or these are, the reasons that they pick up the phone, like that kind of stuff. Okay, if you can start from there, obviously it's going to better connect to your business and better move the needle in your business. But even if you have most of the length of a book or a manuscript mostly written, chances are, it could be totally unrelated, in which case maybe you use it as a brand play, and maybe you wrote a memoir and it's only tangentially related to your business. Well, then sure, you could publish that, and I would still tie it in because now it's part of your brand, but it's not going to make it rain like a on the money, like the core business type book, but it can still move the needle in a meaningful way. But then I would just say, if you are at that point, how can you edit or massage that to tie into the business in some way? Which I feel like you did a good job of that.
I was going to say, I feel like you're talking to me, but in a good way. Like, it's so interesting because, like, from a strategy standpoint, I did not follow the best strategy from a business standpoint. And what was so different about when I finally decided to write a book was that it wasn't about business for me, which was shocking, right? Like, I've told you this before, but the first version of my manuscript was written as a business book. And as we widened the lens, I really had to let go of like the strategy piece of me that is so deeply ingrained in who I am and how I live in this world. Is like, I'm strategic. I like that. And so what I miss and what I missed out on is the ability to strongly tie my book back to my business. And I think that if I were to ever write another book strategically, I'd be following all of your advice right now. And I don't regret the way that I did it, but it wouldn't make sense for the average person, right? Because I already had a big brand and a big following. People were already invested in my life. And for most listeners, they might not be there yet. And so my experience is so separate from how you are teaching this, where I'm looking back and I'm like, dang. But at the same point too, my experience was mine alone and it made sense for me, but it likely wouldn't make sense for most people listening, which is why I keep having you come on, because I told you this, but like writing my book, and my book is like the best work I have ever done. It's the most meaningful work. It was really cute, Chandler. I might cry when I tell you this, but oh my gosh, I might cry. My grandpa recently passed away. Oh shoot. And we were cleaning out his apartment and my like book was there right on his table. It was the one thing he like kept on his coffee table on top of all the photo albums and all the things. And he had written in all the margins and like underlined all the things. And like, there's a chapter about him in the book and it was like circled and hearted and like all these things. And it was like the one thing that I wanted from his apartment. But it was like the only tangible extension of all the work I've done over the last decade was like this book, right? And just seeing like he even had his address label in the back cover of it. Like if he ever lost that thing, somebody would know how to get it back to him. And so it's wild because I think that we look at books as like, oh, this is like so much extra work and extra time. But like, it's also such a tangible way to reach people. So all of this to say, I did not follow this strategy. And if I were coming at a book from a strategic marketing standpoint, I would follow yours. I don't regret how I did mine, but now looking in hindsight, I'm like, ooh, but a book is, in my opinion, the most meaningful work most people will ever do if they ever do it. And I just wish more people would do it. It's a very long way to say that.
Well, hey, thank you for sharing that. I think that is so aligned with just my core belief. I mean, for me, it was my dad handing me Rich Dad, Poor Dad at 16 years old, it changing my life forever. And just this feeling of, hey, books change lives.
Yes.
They change the lives of readers. They change the lives of authors. And so it's some of the most meaningful work that you create, to your point with your grandpa. I mean, my brother and I wrote, the first book we ever wrote was about our parents. And it was basically about the 15 things our parents taught us growing up that we thought were normal. We got out in the real world, realized no one gets taught this stuff. is his perspective as a musician, obviously plays in the band Need to Breathe, my perspective as a business guy on these same 15 things. And it's one of those things, it's like they will forever have that. Our kids will forever have that, our grandkids. And I think that everyone, even if you, so we're going off into left field here, and this is not business at all, but it's impact. And it's creating something that long after you're off this earth, it's still here. It's making a difference. To your point, it's physical. It's, you and I do a lot of online business stuff.
Grandpa can't hold on to a webinar on his coffee table, right? Like there's no webinars hanging out on Grandpa's coffee table, right? I wish there was, but yeah, it is. It just hit me of like how, it's a real life extension of who we are. Okay, so if I were to write another book, not signing myself up for it yet, how would you like step by step start thinking about the process? Like, does it start with idea? Do I have to come to you with like, I have an idea? Does it have to be like, here's the goal? Like, what is required to enter into this process of self-publishing a book?
So let's just use you as a super hypothetical example.
Drew would be like, you did not commit to this. Okay,
No, I think what's beautiful about the process that you've went through is that writing a book is kind of like learning how to ride a bike. Yep. Once you do it, you can do it again and again and again. And so you wrote the book that was true to your heart, and that was the starting point. And now if you ever chose to do the next one, it would be 10 times easier.
Yep.
And both on the topic and on the process. So if you wrote a down the fairway business book, but obviously you teach on this stuff all the time.
Yep.
That's great. But then also the process, I mean, you now know how to do it. There's a reason why there's not a lot of people who have written one book. There's a ton of people who have written no books. And then you see people who have a bunch of books, right? And that's because you learn the process. And so the way I would think about it, and we'll talk about this on the training as well, is the more writing method is a framework that we teach, MORE, mind map, outline, rough draft, editing. Ooh, and so that's kind of how I think about it. Go through the kernel of the idea, then turn it into an outline, then write the rough draft, then move into the editing process. But it all starts with the mind map. And for a lot of people, you're probably listening to this or watching this, hold up, I'm not even there yet. I don't know what I would write about, or I don't have ideas. And so start with that mind map. And I think you'll find out there's a lot more that you can say than maybe you think.
Okay. Walk us through how to do a mind map. Here's a really quick, funny story, Chandler. The first time I ever met my husband, we were in this comm class, and our first assignment was to make a mind map. And he is convinced that I played dumb, not knowing what a mind map was. I literally didn't know. And so I asked him to meet me in the basement of our dormitory hall so that we could make mind maps together. And he claims that that was like one of our first dates. If somebody's listening and they're either playing dumb or they really don't know what is a mind map, walk us through how to start one.
Well, first off, are you saying this is disputed?
It's such a dispute. He also claims that I had a low-cut shirt on when I came to the basement of his dorm. I disagree on all of that because you couldn't get this girl out of sweatpants when I was in college. So I disagree. I think he has a really altered reality of what that memory was.
This sounds like me and my wife debating how we met and our first date and all this stuff. But that's a story for another time. So the mind map process, I like to think about, all right, start with a blank sheet of paper, circle in the middle of the page, something that looks kind of like this. This is a little example. I still use this all the time for different things. So circle in the middle of the page with your idea, the thing that you could write about, the broken record conversations that you're having, whatever that thing is. Then set a timer for 15 minutes as soon as you're done listening to this, or tonight before you go to bed, and just brain dump everything you can think of on that topic. What are the stories that you have? Lessons that you've learned, maybe client wins that you would want to talk about in the book. Maybe it's the broken record conversations that you keep having over and over again. The questions people have before they work with you. Any of those things, mind map. And then in that process, you're going to start to see ideas flowing. Now you can group those into groups or themes, start to create the structure of the outline, which the better the outline, the easier the book. That really kind of greases the wheels of the whole rest of the process.
I love that. One of my favorite things about summer is spending time at the lake, and we are in the process of refurnishing our lake house slowly but surely. And I have been obsessed with Cozy lately. You know, when you first find a brand and you think, okay, they totally get me. For me, that's Cozy. Their pieces are beautiful, but more than that, they're practical. And as someone who juggles business and motherhood and maybe moving the couch for the third time this month, which Drew can confirm, I need furniture that keeps up. Cozy's modular couches have totally caught my eye. They are designed to adapt, whether your living room turns into a dance floor, a playroom, or your office for the day. I love that you can reconfigure them, add pieces as your space changes, and yes, they have washable covers for the win when you've got kids running around. They are all about being modern, adaptable, and worry-free. They truly open up new home possibilities with furniture that adjusts to your life and not the other way around. And let's be real, your home should be your way, reflecting who you are and how you live. Transform your living space today with Cozy. Visit cozy.com, spelled COZEY.com, the home of possibilities made easy. You know those things you create for yourself or your business after spending hours Googling and wondering, why has nobody made this yet? Yeah, you could sell them. That's exactly what I did with my presets and templates. And with Shopify, turning them into products was simple. Starting something new can feel overwhelming and lonely when you're wearing all the hats. But with Shopify, you don't have to do it alone. Shopify powers millions of businesses worldwide and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from brands like Gymshark and Mattel to those just getting started. With hundreds of stunning, ready-to-use templates, you can build a beautiful online store that matches your brand. You can even accelerate your content creation with Shopify's AI tools that write product descriptions, craft page headlines, and even enhance your product photography with a single click. And with built-in email and social tools, it's like having a marketing team right in your back pocket. From inventory to shipping to returns, Shopify has the expertise to guide you every step of the way. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/goaldigger. Go to shopify.com/goaldigger. Again, that's shopify.com/goaldigger. Living 6 hours away from Drew's family means that we often opt to meet in the middle and get Airbnbs for our get-togethers. We've stayed in some pretty unforgettable places, like a house with an indoor pool, which was so fun for the Midwest, one where I discovered Drew's dad is a pool shark, and even a place with a hot tub that the kids refuse to leave. We've even celebrated holidays in these cozy homes away from home. And it got me thinking, if you've got a few trips on the calendar too, and your home's going to be empty, you should be hosting. With Airbnb's co-host network, you can have a local co-host take care of everything. They can manage guest messages, check-ins, and all the details for you. It's not about turning your home into a business. It's about making it work for you on the days that you're not in it. So if travel's on your calendar, this is your sign to start hosting. Your space could be creating memories for someone else while you're off making your own. Find a co-host today at airbnb.com/host. Okay. And I think too, one thing we've been doing, Chandler, that's interesting that you really talk about and teach on is like, one thing I realized is after writing my book, I kind of stopped writing. Like I wasn't writing consistently. And so one habit I've gotten into is every week, somebody on my team gives me 3 story prompts. And it's literally like, tell me a time when, and it could be like, you had fear, but you did it anyways. You were embarrassed and you thought you'd never recover. You went into something with one expectation and walked out with something totally different. It's like literal, like we're making a story log in my business, which is something we did in the past.
That's cool.
I haven't updated it in so long. And it helps you to see how many stories you have, whether they are from a decade ago or from today. And it's honestly helped me so much in even just like acknowledging the different day-to-day stories. I feel like on social, I've just been showing up more vulnerable, more just like sharing my thoughts and what I'm thinking about and conversations I'm having. And so I think a lot of times people think like, well, I haven't written in so long. Where do I even begin? Or I have no stories to tell. And it's like, oh my gosh, when you start to unearth it, it's almost like the floodgates just open and you not only look at life differently, but you kind of evaluate. Like for me, writing my book was like so therapeutic in so many ways of like thinking through all the different things that taught me the lessons I've learned along the ways and acknowledging those moments and those people and those things. And so I just feel like a mind map can start to unlock so many things that you have already experienced, so many stories that already exist, so many things that you might have even forgotten about that like come up to the surface. It's like literally just like twisting the key and opening the gates. And like, I feel like so many people I know that have written books, it's like once they get started, the floodgates open and you literally can't stop. That was my experience. I know so many people who have had that experience, and I want my listeners to have that experience too.
I agree with that. I love that. And I love it's so parallels, right? You're creating content for social. There's stories, there's takeaways, there's lessons. It's a muscle.
Yeah.
And similar to the book writing process, and even just it's really interesting, this kind of your story bank process, if you will. I think that's helpful for the book creation process, because I don't know if you're anything like me, but I'm a very much a teach kind of all right, I've got a book or I've got anything, like I want to teach. Yep. And I'm not going to tell stories because that's going to be wasting their time. They want to learn. Yeah. But then I realized, hold up, the most compelling and interesting, sermons that I listen to or books that I read are very story based.
Yes.
How about that? And so it's been something that I've had to really consciously work on. So I'm going to give that process a try of just mind mapping all the things I want to teach, but then on the other side, mind mapping the stories that I can tell. So, this story, there's this story. That story matches with that lesson. That story matches with that lesson, and kind of bringing the content to life.
Yeah, I love that. And that you're exactly right. Like, I am the person who types out the Slack message and then has to go back to the beginning and be like, hello, good morning. I hope you're well. Because it's I am straight to the point. Every email I write, I have to always go back to the beginning and add in the niceties and like the greetings, because I just am like, so like literally, let's just rip off the Band-Aid and get to it. And not everybody is like that. But I am the same way when it comes to teaching and tactics and strategies. And I have felt the same way, even in webinars. Like, I often were like, I was a person where I was like, let's just get to it. And it's like, no, people remember stories. They need to relate. They need to know you relate to them or you understand them. And so I think it's also just a beautiful way of like, okay, how do I relate to them? Or why do I relate to them? Or when was the time that I actually felt this pain? And it's interesting too, because I think a lot of people who have built businesses, they're so far removed from those early days that they can have struggle connecting to the people that they want to serve, because they've forgotten, what does it feel like to be a beginner? Or what does it feel like to have that pain and not know how to get the transformation? And I know for me, like writing the book, like brought me viscerally back to those early days of all the different things that I've been through. And it really kind of grounded me again into like, why do I do this? And like, how did I get here? And like, what were the pivotal moments? And so I don't know, for me, writing a book was like so amazing to like be reminded of all of those things. And I know you agree with this, but I think everybody has a book within them. And I think that the more people that can see that and honor their own story or the things that they've learned, either the easy way or the hard way, like the more that we are getting this out into the world and not like coveting or gatekeeping the things that could change other people's lives. Because I just believe we're a bunch of people walking around thinking everybody knows what we know, and it's not true.
And in fact, they don't know most of what you know.
Correct. Correct.
Right? And I feel so seen on the edit. Yes,
it's me.
That's
it's
my life.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So one final thing that I want to talk about. So I just finished up an interview with two of my dear friends, and they wrote a book. They're amazing. And I literally remember talking to them about the whole book process 2 years ago when my book came out. And they were saying that they loved the creative side of writing a book, but they hate the selling of it. Like that part feels vulnerable. They want to not do it. That, it's just they're having all the resistance. And I think a lot of people are creative and they like being in that creation mode, but the actual selling of the creation can feel really sticky. So can you help us walk through like some strategies or any tips you have around actually selling the book? Because I would gander to bet that there are people literally sitting on manuscripts or ideas for manuscripts, but the thought of selling that thing and putting it out into the world and getting it into the hands of their readers is the thing holding them back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I would say there's two components. There's the mindset, and then there's the tactical, which if you don't master the mindset, nothing else matters, which I was someone who hated sales and marketing. And then I dropped out of school and, I'd had some businesses that had done decently well, but then I was kind of starting from scratch. And I had a mentor who said, Chandler, you need to meet Sam. I'm like, okay, great. Who's Sam? And why do I need to know him? He said, well, Sam is sales and marketing. He said, if you build it, they will not come. Like, you got to tell them about it. So you got to learn sales and marketing, and you are the driver of your book's success. If you truly believe that this book is going to change people's life, well, you can't change their life if they don't read it. They won't read it if they don't buy it, and they can't buy it if they don't know about it, right? And they can't know about it if you don't get really passionate about saying, hey, this is going to be helpful for you in learning sales and marketing. So you got to take the mindset first. And honestly, nothing else matters if you don't have that. But then once you have that mindset for marketing, it's moving into some very tactical stuff. One of which is this concept called a launch team. Yeah. So it's a small group of people who support you in the topic of your book, and pulling together. If you just do one thing, just do that. It's kind of a lot to unpack. I'll unpack it on the training that we're doing. Yeah. So show up for that. I'll walk through the whole process, and it'll help you create a launch team. And if you just do one thing, create a launch team, your book will be more successful. But again, if you don't have the mindset and learn to love it, even though you might not love it up front, well, then the book's not going anywhere and it's not going to help people.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about this training. We've been teasing it. This is the comeback tour, because every year we do this and books are born. Chandler is the doula, and it is so exciting, and nothing brings me more joy. So what is this training that you're hosting? Tell me about it. Tell me why somebody should be on it, and I'll tell you where to go.
Yeah. So it's going to be awesome. It's live on June 10th. So if you're seeing this before, then you can register. If you're seeing this after this, we'll also evergreen it so you can watch the replay. But we're going to talk about how to come up with an idea. We're going to talk about how to get the book written in as little as a weekend, which I know is kind of a crazy concept. But then we'll talk about the 3 steps to launching the book as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like you said, I think this is the comeback tour. I think since last time, I don't even know how many dozens of books we've launched from your community, but it's been pretty incredible. So it's selfpublishing.com/Jenna. You can register for the training there, and it's going to be awesome. I'll give you a free copy of the book when you show up. We practice what we preach here.
Yes, literally.
So show up. You'll learn a bunch of good stuff, get some free stuff. It'll be fun.
Yes. Yes. I love this training just because I think so many people are just stuck either sitting and waiting to have the idea come, or sitting on the idea itself, or starting the manuscript and then thinking, now what? And so this is such a fun training. And I just think it's so beautiful. I want to be the godmother of all the books that are born, because I just feel like books are such a beautiful thing. I feel like my grandpa reminded me of that just a few weeks ago, of just how powerful they are. And Chandler, I feel like you are just such a great teacher of this and simplifying the process that often feels daunting and overwhelming. I feel like if you do a book right, it's not going to take you out of your business. It's only going to add to your business. And so I think that this is a beautiful way to do that. So selfpublishing.com/Jenna for the free training. I'm so excited to do that as well. Chandler, where can everybody find out more about you and learn from you? And of course, sign up for the training.
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, just show up to the training. So selfpublishing.com/Jenna, register for the training. You'll get a free copy of my book, whatever format you want. We'll hook it up for you. Show up live. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be awesome. And you can find us at selfpublishing.com. You can find me on social here and there. I don't have an Instagram, but I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and all that stuff. Maybe Instagram might be coming soon. I might be coming to your world, Jenna.
I love that for you. I'm so happy for you. Awesome. Thanks for coming back on the podcast. As always, it's such a treat to have you back.
Thank you, Jenna.
I love talking books with Chandler. I feel like he is a wizard and a leader in this industry when it comes to helping authors not only write their books, but get them out into the world in the most meaningful and impactful ways. And I love this idea of using a book strategically as a part of your business ecosystem, as a way to help people fall in love with you, as an offer to the world and a way to add value. I just feel like books are so, so powerful. And I personally do not know anyone better than Chandler to help you get your book out into the world. So I love his free training. I attend it every single year. I have his book. I have his blueprint. It is so, so powerful. And I absolutely love hearing from all of you who have used his system and his blueprint to launch your book out into the world. And so if this is something that you are considering, or if you've never considered it until this episode, but you are now, go save your seat for his free masterclass, selfpublishing.com/Jenna. I will be on the training cheering you on, and I'm excited to hear your ideas for books. And thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you know somebody who has a book in them, or you're like, you've told your friend, you need to write a book about this, send this episode to them or any of my past episodes with Chandler to plant that seed in their mind and invite them to the free training. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Goal Digger Podcast. Whether I'm laughing or crying, you are along for the ride. And until next time, keep on digging your biggest goals. Thanks for pulling up a seat for another episode of the Goal Digger Podcast. I hope today's episode fueled you with inspiration, gave you information that you can turn into action, and realigned you with your true north in life and business. If you've enjoyed today's episode, head on over to goaldiggerpodcast.com for today's show notes, discount codes for our sponsors, freebies to fuel your results, and so much more. And if you haven't yet, make sure you're subscribed so that you never miss a future show. We'll see you next time, Goal Diggers.
Please note, this episode may contain paid endorsements and advertisements, and individuals on the show may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to in the episode. Your support through affiliate links or sponsored content helps us continue to bring you valuable content. Thank you for being a part of the Goal Digger community.